that. I'm going to make sure the stream is going, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be going. It just, that whole delay business. But, and I've left Greg, so he's going to get to sit here, and I've given him away already. I've given him this, very charming face away. No behind the curtain moment for him today. But we're, don't stand on ceremony here at the Folk Alliance Region Midwest. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Miguel, I hope you are with me and can watch the waiting room. Thank you, pal. Just give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you got that message. If not, I'll keep an eye out as well. Hello, everyone. My name is Annie Capps. For those of you who don't know, I am the current farm board member, board of directors. I have a long history with the Folk Alliance Region Midwest, and I've been actively involved with, of late, since COVID in particular, the virtual connections programming, which is where you have found yourself today. And we are holding these occasional tech talks. We started them as tech talks over COVID. Again, for those of you who are new to us, because we were talking a lot of tech, and we were trying to help folks get comfortable with the whole live streaming world and just a whole new way of being, and that evolved into a whole lot of other kinds of conversations. So I'm just calling today's Tuesday Talk. And today's talk, we're super thrilled to have Greg, I forgot, Ferraiolo, right? Did I say it?
Good, yeah.
Okay, good. I've been practicing, and I didn't know if I was practicing it correctly. But Greg came across my radar because he did some outreach, and we had a great chat about a topic near and dear to my heart, which is collaboration and community. And that is what we're here to talk about today. This talk is called Community Over Competition, a conversation about collaborating in a DIY world. And Greg has so much great information to say. I'll tell you a little bit about him from his bio. The formalities would be, he is the co-founder of Musician Indie Coalition, and which is a next-gen artist development company that he started. I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me that you started this with a friend of yours. I could be wrong about that, but you'll clarify for me. But the idea is helping musicians build sustainable careers without breaking the bank, which we talk a lot about today financially, the way that a lot of things out there are, great services, but, you can go broke trying to participate. His current project is called ConcertCollab, which is the impetus for this conversation, which is a community-powered booking platform where musicians team up to share stages so they can play to larger crowds and book more consistent shows. And of course, we can go into a lot more of that. Greg, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. We had this great conversation for the last half hour, and we're like, I hope we didn't just blow our whole wad and that time. But I think we have plenty to say, and we'll have plenty to repeat. But so let's start with you and how you got into this business in the first place.
Yeah, I started off just like many of you here, I'm sure, as a musician. I got into it for the idea of, hey, I wanted to be singer-songwriter, get out there and start, making a following. And I got into the industry with the help of a mentor who was kind of, overseeing my career development at the time. And once I kind of got my feet wet a little bit, she placed me working for a musician by the name of Nile Rodgers, and I worked as an intern for him. And once I started making really good connections there, I thought I could kind of jump from musician to stardom, which she laughed at me and said that's ridiculous, and I didn't listen, and I burned myself in my career quite a bit. And I realized that there's the way that to build music career was not that whole overnight success thing that I saw growing up as a kid, and it was a lot more work, and there was a lot more to it. So over the last years, 20 years, I've really learned about the business side, which kind of segued into me launching Musician Indie Coalition. That's the brief story.
Nice. Well, and Music Indie Coalition has been going on for how long now?
Decade. Yeah.
A decade. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you're we talk about collaborating in the DIY artist in a DIY world, and I don't know, just when you hear the term collaborating, how do you think of that sort of in a broad?
I always tell musicians, when it comes to building a music career, it's a very still much a relationship based business. So when I think collaboration, I just think making friends. Like, who are going to be the people that when you have a successful career that you're going to work with, whether it's, working with another musician on a show or collaborating on a song, or even with an engineer when you're recording. Who are the people that are going to make up your, friend and professional network and, help you kind of do the things that you want to do in your music career? And that has a lot of different looks to it.
Yeah, because it's not just, well, okay, yeah. I mean, we can go beyond that. So in this whole independent world, like
You bet.
collaborating, because you can talk about collaborating as a we'll get into the
Yeah.
idea behind all this. The concert collab is the co-bills, but there's so much more to collaborating in this industry. I
Yeah.
mean, it's such a, it almost seems silly to even mention it to this, because as I said, we're preaching to the choir. These are people that collaborate with others in so many different areas of their world and their businesses and their, everything you do requires collaboration. So I feel like I want to just sort of hone in on the specific benefits of how artists working with other artists, right? Because like we go to these conferences and we talk about how, oh, everybody's trying to meet this venue presenter and this, festival booker or this booking agent or this person, when really the people who are your biggest, I think the most important people to meet are your peers and the other artists who are doing what you're doing, right? So,
I agree. It's one of those things that I think when you think about networking in the music industry and working with everyone, everyone's always thinking of that top record executive or that big name that's going to, change their entire lives. And I think that's because, we come into this industry with that getting discovered mindset, because that's how you used to become successful.
yeah.
But the reality is, it's like you shouldn't overlook the person standing next to you, mainly because they're at the same level. They want the same things. They're driven by the same, interest, and but they also are experiencing the same problems. So you guys are mutually invested at the same points in your career. And so, most industry professionals, the reality is, unless they can see a way to make money from you, they're not really going to be interested in working with you,
Mm.
as much as, like, we want to believe that, obviously there are some, professionals out there that hear the music and want to do something with it. Most of them aren't going to go through that process just because, their time is limited, and every musician they meet has some sort of level of talent. So you really need to look at the people that are standing next to you, from a musician standpoint, because I think they really care. And I think you can really learn from them. There's, contacts that you can get, there's knowledge that they have. Everybody has a certain amount of experience and expertise that they can provide you with, whether it's, hey, you should listen to this service, or hey, check out this venue. Everything that you don't have to discover for yourself is, I think, just beneficial.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've been in this industry for a long, very, 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 very long time. And I wear a lot of different hats, and so I have the opportunity to, find ways of collaborating with people in general. But I think and I do. We were just talking about the shows that are happening. Like we talked about themed shows, which I think we can get into in a little bit, as we start getting into ways of collaborating in general, but still staying a little higher level. Just the idea that it's not easy, I think, sometimes for artists, and I've certainly experienced this as an artist, to approach another artist and, kind of ask them, do you want to do shows together? I mean, just like, even, especially if it's somebody that maybe might be at a different, slightly, more advanced level than you, because to me that sort of also makes some sense. There are artists out there who are always helping lift up other artists, which I think is amazing. But it's not possible for everybody to do it all the time. And so, like, just that approach and, how you pick
Yeah.
that person.
I mean, when I'm working with an artist, I try to equate it to, like, what they know. It's like making friends. Like, you don't have to get out there and just try to make a business contact immediately. Have a conversation. Most people in this business are pretty approachable. See if you even like each other. See if you click. Get to know one each other a little bit. As I was saying in the chat to me before, like, I always equate this to, like, if you meet somebody and you hit it off, you don't immediately ask them to help you move. That's a big ask. It's a big ask very
Well,
early on. Well, you could, but I mean, I think they even have a Jerry Seinfeld thing where they kind of joke about that. Like, you have to get to know someone a little bit, and maybe do them some favors, or just build that relationship up before you do that. And because you wouldn't have a problem asking your friend that you knew for years if you want to put on a show together. It would just be like a casual conversation. But I think there's that feeling of like, I need to get this done immediately, so I have to jump right to this opportunity of like asking right away. But you don't. There's time. Just get to know one another, exchange contact information, and then you can have that conversation at a later point in time where it feels maybe a little bit more natural. Unless you're really under the gun for something. But I think there's, in this business, you're not. If you're really a musician, you're going to be doing this forever. So you don't have to feel that under the gun pressure. Take your time, build the relationships that you need, and worry about how fast you move later on.
yeah. And building relationships is there's a lot of ways to do it, right? So whenever I think of building relationships, I because I'm so focused on the conference and farm and my involvement with that, and that's the first place I go to is like attending these conferences. But those aren't always accessible to everybody. Not everybody can afford to attend them. Not everybody it necessarily feels like that's their scene. And so finding ways to I don't know, I really don't like the word network, but getting out there, building relationships we talked about, and I'll let you fill in that, but like just even in your own town and your own community, and going beyond your own, like taking your blinders off and getting to know your neighbors such as they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, as long as you have a local music scene, to get out there and be active in it. Get to know everybody, whether it's at a specific venue or multiple venues. Be active in your town, get to know the local talent, and just, see who's out there, and just kind of start that I'm just part of this music scene. Because it's not, again, it shouldn't, like, I think what feels so uncomfortable about networking is you're going to one place for a very brief period in time, and you have to meet all these people really, really quickly. And it's not natural in that standpoint, except for the fact obviously everyone's there for that purpose. But I think it's more natural just to go there and be part of a community, start, get to know everybody, and move forward. I just attended my first, I did at NERFA in the fall, and what I loved about it was like the convention was like this little community in a hotel, but we were there kind of just hanging out, watching music, having a good time, everyone just kind of chatting, and you just made friends over the course of the day. There wasn't that pressure to network and come away with contacts. And so there's ways to go about doing it, and if you get really serious about it, of course there's strategies and techniques that you can learn to do online networking and how to do it in a way that feels authentic. But at the end of the day, it's up to every individual musician to figure out how they feel comfortable doing it. And that's the big difference, being told what you need to do and figuring out how to do it in a way that feels authentic to you. That's what every musician has to figure out for themselves.
Yeah, or maybe needs help figuring out, frankly, which,
Yeah.
somebody like you has the little bit of background, because I do think it's a unique experience for everybody. Not everybody, is as outgoing as the next person or as comfortable, and maybe not even, I don't know, not to get into psychotherapy, but not always their best selves in certain situations, and understanding what that is and what works best for you I think is a big part of this too. So, but I love this. Like, I want to talk, like, right off the bat, you got this category 1, and by the way, now more and more people are in the room. So now that there's more and more people in the room, I would like to say welcome to all those who came in as we were in the beginning part of this conversation. But and we have chat. Oh, Miguel's already done this. Good job, Miguel, except I think you sent that to me privately. Oh, no, you didn't. Good. Never mind. So Miguel Gonzalez, farm board member, is behind the scenes. You can chat directly to him. You can chat directly to me if you like, but I prefer you chat directly to him if you have questions. We'll have opportunities during the conversation if you want to raise your hand. When the time comes, I wouldn't bother raising it right this very minute, unless you have like a really urgent thing that you feel like you have to chime in. We're pretty casual here, and so we welcome your input. So all that to say, because I know that there's a lot of people in this room who, are great community members and are always collaborating with others and finding different ways of doing that more and more. And so your input is always welcome. Debunking the DIY myth and vanity metrics. And I love that vanity metrics thing. Like the idea that, like, I don't want to share the show with this person. They might outshine me. I don't want to, right. Or, this person's audience isn't going to like me, or, if you let you go ahead, I'm not going to read your bullet points that you shared with me, but I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the idea of just getting over that.
Yeah. I think when it comes to vanity metrics and, when you're building a music career in today's industry, you're essentially taught to create great music, get it out there, build a social media following, get the streaming numbers up. And, that all those numbers can feel good if you're moving forward. And in other ways, it can feel horrible when you don't get those numbers. But for me, I think it's not a great approach to focus in on building those numbers up unless there's something meaningful behind them. A follower isn't going to help you unless they're a friend. And so you have to have some sort of relationship building techniques with those people to make them something. So streams are great, but they aren't going to pay you enough to live off of. And so you have to figure out how you're going to build relationships with all these people. So, you have to really understand that when you're looking at the process of building a music career, I don't like looking as you're in competition with your fellow musicians, although obviously everyone's trying to get attention. So it's a very competitive space, but I really feel more it's you have to look inwards to that relationship building thing to spotlight one another. Because if you take the time to really work with each other, it really can make it just the overall process better and fun, and you'll get more out of it. Whereas if you keep chasing those metrics, what happens is you're spending money on your recordings, and then you come out and then you're spending money on promotion and PR, and you're not making that money back. And it turns into this death spiral of spend, not make anything back. And, a lot of musicians fail just because of that reason.
I'm so sorry. Well, first of all, I completely misunderstood the vanity metrics. I just read the title, so I should probably vanity. Oh, speaking for me. But anyway, I'm getting comments that your volume could come up. And
my volume.
I tend to think, so maybe your mic volume. So I don't know if you have a way to.
I have, I just have a normal thing, but let me move my thing.
You might be able to go into your audio settings. It seemed fine to me as we were chatting, so I didn't notice. But it could be just that I'm really loud. Comparatively, you're quiet. But in your audio settings, you can check the volume. And those of you who are having a hard time hearing, make sure that your speaker volumes are up too as well. So. But thank you for that, because I do think that there's a lot of chasing metrics, isn't there? Chasing the algorithms, and he's low to me too. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking into my thing even as we speak.
Okay. So you can see your microphone.
Yeah, hold on.
It should be the input volume.
You're right.
There you go. Maybe too much.
Sorry about that.
Why don't you split the difference just a little bit from that? That might have
better.
Distorted. Yes. Good. Awesome.
All right. Well,
yay!
Everyone wants to hear me. That feels really good.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, y'all. We appreciate you. That's 20 minutes in. We've got it. Yay! Excellent. Okay.
All right. So we have to replay everything I just said.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the beginning. No, we'll just go back and turn it all up. It's fine. But I love that. What you were talking about, you were also talking about all the money that we invest in creating our product, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you want, okay, thanks, Mike. My speaker. My microphone is very loud. Turning it down. I just have a big mouth. Okay, thank you. How's that? Better? Everybody? Okay, good. Thank you. All right. But so the idea of sorry, Brand saying too low, but we're just going to let it go. Thank you. The idea of putting all this money, investing in our product, investing in our albums, investing in our art, of course, and then we really want to get it out there. We really want people to, listen to it and hear it. And we think all those numbers, those Spotify plays and those, YouTubes are going to translate into audience, or even like how many venues actually look at those numbers and go, well, I see you only have, a dozen Spotify followers, so
Yeah.
maybe you won't draw. Well, I just don't buy that. Like, so I talk about the idea of collaborating and helping that grow your audience.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree with you. I think all those digital numbers don't mean a lot. Got to consider the source where it's coming from. It's coming from the platforms that want you to use their service, Spotify, all the major ones. And, I don't think that, I mean, I think they have relevance to some extent, but not to the importance level that they make it at. So from a collaborative standpoint, it's really more important to, build personal relationships when I'm working with artists. The ones that move the needle are the ones that make friends in their local communities, friends with the actual venues. They have the local support. They know how to build an audience and provide experiences to them that really matter and impact. They know their audience. They get to learn about who they are. And all these things make a difference because you're building real groundbreaking or ground foundational relationships with these people. They get emotionally invested in what you're doing. People don't get emotionally invested in a stream. They just don't. It's like they might like the song, but being a good musician is only one part of the formula. You have to be a good musician, but they also have to like you as a person as well if they're going to take the time and energy to support you. And that's something that I think a lot of musicians miss, when they get into this process, that, we're told so much that these metrics matter. And it's so hard to get heard because of so much music and so many things out there that everybody just gets hyper focus on that get heard, that they never think that once they do, what do I do? Like if I have that viral moment, what do I do with all these followers? How do I make them my actual friends and fans? And so it's, it's a relationship building process that, when you're in person comes, I think, very natural. Like you meet someone, they like your music, you talk, you get to know each other. But how do you translate that into social media posts and have that same conversation through a reel or an email? It's not natural. You have to learn a little bit about how to do that and how to transform those followers and casual listeners into fans and then eventually into supporters. And that's the real trick, when you're kind of coming through that. And collaboration, I think, is a great way to do it because not only does it give you the opportunity to meet people, but you're not working alone. Like you can only meet so many other people. So collaboration allows you to tap into other audiences, whether again, that's working with a musician, or maybe it's putting on a show with a local charity that you're really passionate about the cause. And now you're being introduced to that entire network. But it has to have, I think, some touch points with your personality. You have to have common interest, where, you can then tap into those audiences and it makes all the sense in the world because you have the same, types of views and beliefs.
Right. I want to talk about that. Like you brought up the charity, something you feel passionate about, but it one of many ways to collaborate, and you see these shows all the time. There's certainly right now there's a lot of concerts for peace. There's a lot of activist like topics that shows are happening, and there are multiple performers that are going out there, and people are coming to those shows because they believe passionately in the cause, and then they're getting introduced to artists and music. And generally speaking, you're playing to a lot bigger audience. You may only be playing one or two songs, but you're being exposed to a lot more people in the room. We certainly have that here. We have annual shows that happen all the time, and from my personal side, I've been doing a Valentine show every year with other duos, and we try to bring in new duos and people that don't have an opportunity necessarily to play at the big venue here in Ann Arbor. And we always bring in their audiences, and there's cross-pollination. And it started out because some of our fans would come, but then it was like, I can't tell you how many of my fans will come up after us and just be like, oh my God, thank you so much for bringing that artist here. They are so amazing. And the next time they come through, they've got new fans. And I mean, that's just like no-brainer stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's a reciprocal thing, but it's not always possible. And so friends of ours are doing a show tomorrow night in this, really cool little venue. And they've done it multiple times, and they're filling it because, it's called Funny Business, and it's 3 artists that lean into funny songwriting. And, they're 3 artists that maybe on their own wouldn't necessarily fill the room or fill a room, but, it sells out in advance. It's, it's a popular show. People want to hear that. So picking a theme, a topic. Sorry, I'm blathering on right now, but that was,
You're fine. Keep going.
just the idea of like the different ways in which you can collaborate. It doesn't have to mean going on tour with another artist. It doesn't have to mean, you could co-bill with a bunch of people along the way, and opening doors and the opportunities. Like the one artist might have access to a venue that you don't, and I don't want to talk about the sort of, competition side of things, but since it's part of the title, the artist has to they want to be willing to work together. And, it's not all artists are necessarily open to opening or inviting another artist along on their show. Could be
Yeah.
financially that they're not sure, right? So I don't know. Do you want
I
to?
mean, I think there's that fear. It's like, because it's so hard to, I think we talked about this earlier, like when we were talking by ourselves. It's like there are more musicians than there are live show slots. So if you get a good live show slot, the last thing you want to do is invite someone in potentially that might take away that slot in the future.
Yeah.
So, there could be that resistance and fear because of the lack of opportunities that there are in the live show market. And so when you're kind of going through that, I think that's a challenge. I think collaboration, though, is a way around that. And not to keep harping at collaboration, but like
Yeah.
if you have a way to draw an audience, then all you need is a place to perform, and that could be a music venue, but it doesn't need to be. It could be someplace that you rent out. It can be anywhere. It could be your backyard. So it's stuff like that I think, I understand the fear, because I think fear is part of this process, but how do you take that? How do you look at this opportunity and get the most out of it without necessarily being worried about losing your future as a result of it? And I think it's understandable, but I also don't think it's what the reality is. The reality is that making good contacts and getting people that support you is only a benefit if you know how to utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually had an experience where I was going to do a co-bill or that I approached an artist, good friends, about co-bill. And they essentially kind of like just shut the idea down because of money. Like the finances of it didn't make sense, making the assumption that it would not make sense for me, but like just in general. And so for us, and I do think that we talked about there certainly is some of that. You have to, obviously we don't want to lose money, but there's like a bigger picture of, again, what is your ultimate goal? If you want to get in front of a venue, if you want to get in front of a new audience, you may be willing to play a show for a few less dollars. But like, again, that collaboration has to feel sort of mutually beneficial, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
And in some cases, it's sort of like it leans on one person. So again, if you've got something reciprocal that you can offer and just say, well, hey, like, I'll bring you to my town and we can play at this venue where I know I can pull a lot of people and you don't have a draw, but like, and then, we'll go to my town. And here in the Midwest, we can do that on a same tour kind of thing, right? Like,
Right.
yeah. I'm sorry, I want to interrupt real quick because I do see a question here, and it's something that I can sort of address. And you and I talked about is how do agents, promoters, presenters fit into the equation, and when it comes to collaborating. And I do think we could have an entirely separate talk with. I actually had lunch with a booking agent yesterday, a woman who lives locally, just friendly chit chat, and I was telling her about this. And it seems that there isn't always the same, it's a different kind of collaboration. And so I got the impression that, her experience with collaborating was among her artists, perhaps, but not necessarily among other agents. Some agents, are more, I think, but so agents I can't speak to specifically. I also think it's just a different conversation. But as far as venues go, I do want to talk about the idea that I also wear the venue hat, and I've had co-bills proposed to me as a venue, and I was the one who was sort of not I wanted one of the artists, but not necessarily the other. So that is a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone thinks the hardest part about booking shows is finding a venue. It's not the case. The hardest part is drawing the audience. So whether you're a booking agent, promoter, or venue, it's getting people through the door. And that is what I think collaboration is all about. When I first started working in building MIC, I went to an open mic in New York City, one of the most popular ones. But some nights where it was absolutely dead in there. And at some point in time, the person organizing it came up to me and knew who I was and said, like, what could we do a little bit differently? I'm like, well, what we can do is we can, bring in 10 artists specifically, promote it, have everyone put on 2 songs. I mean, it's a brief thing. And, but like everyone brings people and it packed the place. And like, there's no better, I think, examination of what goes on at like all the folk conferences. Everyone has the guerrilla showcases where they're in the rooms. Imagine everyone invited people into those hotel rooms for those shows. It'd be packed. Obviously, it's easy to pack a hotel room, but in general, so I think there is ways that collaboration, and community building is important. Another example I would say too is in my area there is a performing arts center where that does open mics, but every month they bring in 4 different bands where they will kind of showcase those 4 artists. They all invite people, but then they bring in a local charity and some local artisans, and they all, invite people to this event. And it winds up being an amazingly curated event with lots of people there. And so there are ways to utilize it as a venue, as a promoter, as a booking agent, because everybody is missing the most important ingredient, which is an audience. And it's easier if you all work together to deliver.
I agree. So I do think you just answered John's question very well. And I loved your anecdote. Like, real quickly, do you want to tell the story of your client, your Canadian client who sort of
yes
went
so
from the back? Yeah, because then we'll move into the demo, I think, of your.
Yeah. So as I've been building ConcertCollab out and all that kind of stuff, I've been looking for musicians that, always need help with their careers. But I met an artist from Toronto who was complaining about the concept that she's like, I was having a hard time booking gigs. I was waiting for, places to call me back. They weren't doing it. And she's like, I got fed up with it. And I just decided to host a show in my backyard. And so she got a couple of bands, like 4 or 5, and they put on a little mini concert in the backyard, and it was absolutely packed. And then she posted some of that stuff on social media. And the next thing she knew, she had a whole bunch of other musicians that looked at that and said, wow, this is amazing. Let me help. I want to play that show also. And what she saw happen was over time, like she started growing an audience of fans and musicians because she was being exposed to all these new little tiny micro communities. And then as word of what she was doing kind of got out, then venues in the area started asking her to come in and host an event at their venue. So it turned into a nice little revenue stream for her and a way to grow an audience that she didn't expect even slightly. And so there's lots of ways that you can do this where I think it really benefits everybody if you really think about it as, what can I give to get support in return? So going back to what you said, that mutually beneficial idea of what are we each bringing to the table that is going to help one another.
Yeah, and sometimes it's one person that sort of kicks it off, but it becomes something that, you get a lot back. And your mutual amplification line is like something that I really want to just hang on to, because I feel like a lot of people, and we talked about the light shining, when we shine a light on our peers and our friends, you can't, it's going to shine on you as well. Like, and it doesn't, maybe not at that moment, but it's also showing up for your peers. As a venue, Abby's come in. As a venue, we've also found success in collab with fellow venues. If we like an artist but already have the date booked that they need, we can toss them to some. So that's
love it.
Yeah, sure, that's awesome. Oh, Abby, I know. Hi, Abby. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I run a concert series, in my town, but it's only once a month, and so I have a lot of artists that are traveling through, and I can't book them on that day because I have a very specific date, 9 shows a year. That's what I do, and I've been keeping a running Michigan venue list, and folks will, ask me. I've actually put it out there to collaborate on any other Michigan venues who want to add to it, but it's just a Google sheet that I can just send off to people, and anybody who's got information that's helpful to it. And I keep a hard copy in case somebody accidentally deletes it. But, that's what I mean. We do, like there is, and I think a good example would be, like, I'm the kind of venue that an artist could come and play to build an audience in my neck of the woods. Because my venue has a built-in audience. They don't know the artists a lot of times when they come. Certainly some do, but I tend to bring in artists that are lesser known in the area. And so, and I, that's something I'm very fortunate to have. I've, built enough of a community that they trust me and they come to the shows, So, that's not necessarily true everywhere. So some venues really need the artist to have at least some draw, right? And in order to
100%.
have a draw, you have to be able to sort of maybe play a venue that's a little easier to book, or a venue to start building your audience. I spent years building audiences playing coffee houses in my town before I could play the Arc. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so to the extent that a venue can offer that list to artists, well, I can't book you right now because you need to establish yourself around here, right? Here's
Right.
a bunch of places that are booking lesser known acts. So anyway, blah blah blah. Okay. Well, onward. All right. I tell you what. I just don't want to run out of time. I don't know how much time you need to run through your app, but a couple of us have poked around on it, and we're very, very curious to see this app. So you should be able to share your screen. Do you want to
Oh,
just go ahead
yeah,
and
I
do
can do that.
that, or do you need me to do it?
No, I can do it.
Okay. All
I've
right.
worked in. Oh, yeah. Let's make sure.
I'm pretty sure you know how to do computers.
We're
So.
fine. I give Zoom stuff all the time. It's fine. Um,
I'll put
all
the link
right.
in the chat too. Or
If you
maybe
can't see it, let me know. All right. So this is what we're building. It's called ConcertCollab. It's available for mobile and desktop. It is currently not a specific app, but it does the work of an app, and once it's on your phone, functions just the same. So the whole purpose again behind it is community powered booking service. So the booking services that are available out there, it'll have all those features. But the primary two things that it'll have is a database of musicians to work with, and then places where you can actually perform. So the Find a Collab area is going to be, primarily musicians, which we're working on onboarding. And you'll be able to search by genre, subgenre, and you'll be able to come in and, review everyone's profile. And if you like the person or interested, there's Annie. You can come in and you can send them a chat message to get to know them. You can look at their profile, which is essentially going to be like a little mini EPK, but it's like a closed circuit. This isn't available to the public. It'll be, mostly musicians to start, eventually venues, and we might add professionals, which I think we're probably going to wind up doing over time. But right now, it'll just kind of be like a little EPK. Artists will be able to come in, message one another, or look at their, availability. So, come in and say, hey, I want to book a show. Oh, they're open here. Let me set up a time to talk with them. So there'll be different things that you'll be able to do, but it'll function like a little mini EPK in a way that does that. And then if you like the person, just like on social media, you can share them, you can save them to your network. So you'll be able to tap into that later on. And the reviews are a little bit different. So the reviews idea is, it's not just blatant reviews, like it's a collaborative thing. So if you play with somebody, you want to give them some constructive feedback, you can send it to them after the show, and if the review is good and you guys work together well, they can post it to their profile. If not, if it's something negative, where, hey, you didn't show up on time, you didn't communicate well, you can let them know, and then they can work at trying to improve those things, but it doesn't necessarily hinder what their reviews look like on the front end. And then on the flip side of that, again, we're going to have a venue database, which we're still building out, but have over 4,000 now, and we should have the US database completely done, hopefully by the end of the summer is my goal. But you'll be able to search for traditional music venues. We're working on eventually adding house concerts, but places too that where you can rent. So it's not just going to be traditional venues, but you can come in here and save them to your profile, just like you can do with regular venues. Regular contacts. So you build your database up of performance places, and then it'll have the booking details, the phone number, how to actually book the show. Over time, we'll work on getting things like the capacity, which we have here. But then what does the venue actually have? Does it have a PA system, backline? And if we don't have that information, or it's not readily available, and it, members can submit it to us so we can add it to the profile, or eventually as we add venues so that they are hosting their own listings, they'll be able to keep all this information up to date. And essentially what will happen is, people will come in, they'll decide to work with one another, and then they'll be able to look at not only venues, but we also have a live stream partner. So if you want to put on a collaborative live stream, so if you want to put on a show with someone from Europe or wherever else, you'll be able to do that as well. Other features include things like, having, places where venues will eventually be able to book, play shows. So if you want to see where some open time slots are, that'll be there. We also have the same thing available for artists if they just want to post a gig, instead of they don't have necessarily time to network, they can post a show request here. We'll be building out an area for promoting all the live events in the different areas. I don't know if media galleries are going to stay, but we'll also have an area for community where people can kind of chat as a group. And then because I work in artist development, we're also going to have a tools and resources section. So, tips on collaboration, live show guides, if you have to create a press kit, how to go about doing it, booking templates. So if you need to create a stage plot, all the stuff in here, but everything will be, just free. I mean, we're not trying to, do anything that's counterproductive towards guys financially. So all that stuff will be in here. And we'll be continuing making partnerships with different companies to provide additional free resources to everybody. And then the final bit will be the actual tools and resources area, where it'll have some development stuff that will actually help with the idea of how do you create a plan for your career? How do you go through the process of actually engaging and growing your audience? And then over time too, we'll be doing workshops and stuff to kind of help with the live show process. But that's it. It's really basic. It's just getting in there, making contacts with one another, and then organizing shows. And then over time, we probably will help with, some of the booking process, or at least provide you guys with some instruction on how to organize shows and whatnot. But that's basically the gist. Again, very, very simple, not very super high tech, but I don't want it to be. I want it to be this thing where you can come in there and just talk and collaborate with people, put on more shows, and, hopefully book things more consistently, so that if you want to go to Massachusetts, UK, wherever, we'll eventually have local support in all those areas with a directory of good venues, so that you'll be able to book these gigs with more ease and more, reliability, and not risking so much financially, because you'll have an audience when you get there.
Huh.
Okay?
Yeah. So I want to go back to what you said about it being free.
So right now the service is 100% completely free, because we're obviously building the database of artists up. So everyone that joins now is going to get founding member status, which when we have enough members to really feel like, okay, there's a lot of value here, all the members that are part of the founding membership will get an additional free year, plus 30% off for life on the subscription, which the subscription, I'm not here to make $1 million. My goal here is to help musicians have a way to grow organically and earn money while doing it. So we're trying to keep the yearly fees to around $80 to $120 a year at most, so that you guys play one gig, you make the money for the platform, and then everything else kind of goes into, your career. So our goal is to keep it at that. As we get into it more, hopefully that is what we'll be able to stick it at. But anyone that joins now will be free, and get a whole bunch of discounts as we move forward.
Yeah. So how many artists are in here right now?
We have getting close to about 100, but I also have a bunch of musicians on the back end that haven't completed their profile. So definitely over 100. I have another 100 on a wait list. And then we're building partnerships with different nonprofits and community organizers to start onboarding more members. But we're not a startup. We're doing everything just like we're doing it on here, organically through personal relationships, because I feel it's important to connect with people that understand what we're trying to do. We're not trying to just blast out and have every musician in the world on here. We want people that are buying into the philosophy, helping one another, booking shows, and everything along those lines.
Imagine that. So every artist that's in this room today, go out there and create your profile and start that.
Please.
You know who all these people are. But I was like, yeah. So I mean, and as I said, I went in, and I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can put yourself out onto, I don't call them platforms. There's a lot of platforms out there that are geared toward helping artists, and there's a little bit of a fee behind it. And just picking something, like there used to be this mentality, like if it's out there, get yourself on it. It can't hurt.
Yeah.
Just whatever. Now my name showed up right now on this thing, and somebody goes and pokes through, they're going to see my name. What does that do for me? Who knows? You never know. They're just like, it doesn't cost me anything. I've got a platform here, so right. But then when I want to go back in, and I'm going to go look for other artists that might be similar to me, that's for me, it benefits me to get more artists who are similar to me, familiar with this platform, right?
Yeah.
To be able to use it. but I, then I already know them. Anyway, sorry, I'm just sort of thinking out
No,
loud.
I mean, but that's the thing too. It's like I've used a collaboration technique with my artists all the time, and it's good. The challenging part of it is finding good musicians that want to collaborate. So,
Yeah.
by people being on this service, it's let you know that they're open to doing it. So it takes away, I think, a little bit of the fear.
Yeah.
And as far as the professional level of it, we are going to have, just kind of like a vetting process for musicians that want to be, validated. Like we want to make sure that there is some screening to that. So people that have gone through that, vetting process, will have a badge that that we've actually talked with them, seen them, vet them in some way. So that there's a certain level of professionalism, but also a level of hey, I want to actually really be here to work with you. So different levels of that.
And I mean, you said it earlier. There's getting to know people, right?
Yeah, it's
Like
building the network out. Yeah,
you're not just going to go poke around necessarily and go, find an artist out there and just send them a message. Hey, let's do a show together. And I've gotten those like over the years from people that I don't know, and it made no sense to me. They wanted to come here. Like we were nothing alike. They clearly hadn't really done their homework about us. It's the same thing as a venue when you get an inquiry that's, a mariachi band wanting to come play and it's a singer-songwriter showcase. You know what I mean? Like people not, you have to do your homework. You have to do the, as you said, build the relationship. So
quality relationships mean more than the quantity of relationships. So like, it might feel like maybe you're not doing the amount of work because you're not going out there and getting 3,000 contacts, but making one good solid contact that's there to support you, I think is important. So taking the time to say hi and get to know somebody before doing anything else, I think is just the way to go.
Yeah. Greg, the very good question. One of our guests here is asking is to have a referral ID for this Zoom. And I'm not 100% sure what that means other than, is there any kind of, like we heard about ConcertCollab here, kind of any ID that you would want folks to share? Is there like when they enter their profile? I think that's what you're asking, Andrea. Let me know if that's true. But
if they're asking like referrals from one musician
for registration, like when I'm registering, where did you hear about us? It would just be, do you have that question sort of?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't have a question in the thing for the sign up, but there are ways to give referrals to other musicians. Like everyone's profile will have a well, actually I'm not sharing my screen anymore, and that's not going to make any sense unless I'm showing you. I started like, why aren't you seeing this? All right,
get on that.
So everyone's profile will essentially have like a number. Like if I go into my actual like dashboard, so everyone's account, I'm number one, but everyone has a dashboard, and when someone signs up, if you referred another member and they put that ID in there, it's a way to like let people know that, hey, this person gave me a referral. And then we also, even though right now it's free for everybody, we're giving credits away, $10 to every person that signs up along with the person that gives the referral. So both the sign up person and the person that gave the referral will get credits towards their account for all the referrals. So it's like a way for us to help, when we do eventually start charging for the platform, you guys might still wind up getting another couple of years for free if you help with our growth. Was that hopefully the question that was in play there, or not? Did I answer the wrong question?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, it doesn't, I guess the short answer is there isn't really a referral ID necessarily.
It's really just the account of like, go to the website and yeah.
So, and it's not like there's a, because there's no fee, there's no discount needed. So you're good to go. Yeah. And and if we want to like, just again, there's no cost to submit. It took me no time at all to build my profile, and every time I build a profile for one of these things, I find it to be a really great time for me to re-examine my promo materials, my bio, my make sure I have all that stuff accessible so that I can easily put it out there. It just as we're winding down, I want to see if there's anyone who has any thoughts, questions, comments that they want to make. There's been a lot of stuff in the chat, and Miguel, I don't know if I've missed anything of that was a question, but by all means, give me a holler if I missed something that came through as a question in the chat because I wasn't paying attention. But if anyone does have a question or a comment that they would like to add, now would be the time to use the raise hand feature. I can't actually see you, but you just click the raise hand or maybe even put in the chat. I have something to add if you're not finding that there. But as we look for just sort of, the mutual amplification bit, the idea of investing in the success of others to lift the whole community. And would you share, like, I know we've talked about this, but specific examples of how lifting up a peer actually accelerates an artist's own career success? I think we've sort of talked about that in some
Yeah.
ways, but just specifically,
I mean, it
any
goes to
other
the
way.
idea of, high tide raises all ships. If you're working with a
Yeah.
friend and all of a sudden
Thanks for that, Greg.
if they all become super successful, like, maybe their audience all of a sudden explodes and you spent the last 5 years working with that person and supporting them and being there, you think they're just going to forget about you? No, it's, one success is everyone's success. So, it's one of those things. By working with one another, you increase your chances, I think, of having success because you're not just doing it by yourself. When there's success inside of a community, it benefits everyone because it benefits by putting visibility on that entire community. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like there has to be that individual side of your growth, but you also have to kind of work within a network too. Same thing with, like, that's what makes record labels and stuff so popular. It's like they have like a stable of artists. And so a new up and comer can be paired with someone that's super successful and vice versa. So there has to be that network dynamic to it as well. And that's kind of what the idea is here: individual growth, but we also want to see member support and pay it forward to people that maybe only can play a couple of songs, or have that development built into the platform as well.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just shout back out to these annual concerts we do where there's a, list of artists, there are a bunch, 20 artists or so who will play one song at,
Yeah,
we've been
that's
doing this for 20 years. It's a lot of, there's been some in and out of performers, but it's generally a group of artists that know each other well and, kind of come together for this cause. And like, I encourage people to do these varied things, find something that you have in common. I mean, I want to speak, I'll shout out to Mike Green. He's been doing these really fun conversations with other songwriters since he's passionate about songwriting, and so he'll invite a friend who's a fellow songwriter, and the two of them will do a show. And it's not just a show, it's a conversation about the songwriting itself. And so
yeah.
that adds kind of a level of interest to, for that very specific thing, but it's also a way to collaborate with another artist. um, I've formed bands because of collaborations. We've made a whole new band because we had so much fun playing together. Though then you got to come up with a name, but whatever. Oh, hey, Miguel. Hi.
So looping back to your question about missing any questions, I was going through the chat and I found one. John Bunch had asked, do musicians talk about money a lot, or is that private information? And I would just add to that, it's like, well, it's like any family, right? A little uncomfortable, but Greg, how do you sort of envision the platform, walking that fine line of voluntarily divulging information or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, our platform isn't handling this is what you guys should charge. We're facilitating the relationships. How musicians are working with one another now is how much they want to share with one another is completely up to them. I always think that when you're putting on a gig together, unless it's a clear, like, this musician is very well established, this one's just starting out, just my own personality, it's like better just to split the money evenly, for what's going on for the gig. But then there's, the way that you make additional money is tip jars and merchandising and everything else. So, how musicians want to navigate it, I really think that's kind of be up to them. We're not going to insert ourselves in that in any way, shape, or form. That's not what we're here for. The ways that you want to negotiate with venues and whatnot, I think, is on them to some extent. However, as we grow and we establish ourselves as a way to deliver audiences to venues, we do want to make sure that musicians are getting paid at least a minimum for every gig. I don't want to see musicians should not be out of pocket, going in and playing a venue. They should not have they should not be paying to play locations. They're providing value. So we want to make sure that at minimum they're getting paid a certain minimum wage for the work that they're doing. Hopefully, a lot more than that. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, money is always a touchy subject, but we were
It
also
is.
talking
It's
about
awkward.
the fact that, financially speaking, like when you're doing a co-bill in general, like if I could get the gig and take all the money myself, where's the financial benefit of inviting another person to join me on that show other than, I think it's obvious that person is going to have more people. The ultimate goal and the most, I don't know that there's obviously community sharing a show can be a lot of fun, and the chemistry too. Like, we didn't really tap into this, and we're getting toward the end of the session too, so I want to be mindful of that. But like, finding the people with whom you have the chemistry, where the show itself is it's more than just the one act and another act. It's the sum of the collective that you're watching and enjoying, and they go together, and there's some cross collaboration. It's not just this act plays one set, this plays another set. It can be that. It certainly can be that. I'm not suggesting it isn't, but if one act is so entirely different than the other act that the audiences don't do their thing, and we've certainly participated in shows where the first act has a draw and the second act doesn't, and all the people came to the first act and left at the break. You know what I mean? Like, so that's
why it needs to be more of an experience. You can do that traditional thing where people play one person. But I think when you're putting on a collaborative show, there should be, everyone puts on their individual thing, but maybe doing some songs together, doing something that's a little bit more interactive with the audience. And like you were talking about before, like even the theme stuff of, what is this audience there for? Obviously they're there for the music, but are there other things that we can provide during this show that would, expand, what that audience would be interested in coming for beyond that?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Sorry?
Got another one.
Got another one?
Yeah.
The disembodied voice I can't see right now.
Oh, wait, did I turn my video off? Oh, no, I'm here. Patty asked, do you envision a specific lean towards folk or acoustic music, or will all genres be featured? That made me want to just do a little plus on that, a little add-on, which is because you mentioned that you're building the database. So what kind of data intelligence, or database intelligence, semantic filtering, or other kinds of things like that do you envision sort of building into that, so that when people sign in, their geography is known, their genre or the neighborhood of their genre is known, and that, then collaboration happens within the.
Yeah. So every musician will be tagged with like their local nearest city. We're working our way up to the point where that'll be like geolocated with like Google and whatnot over time. Not to get all technical, but we'll be able to kind of pinpoint by like zip code and all that. But then every artist has the ability with inside their profile to tag themselves with their genre, their subgenres, where, and then all the other additional information in there. So when people come in, they'll be able to search musicians by genre, the types of collaborations they're looking for, and location. And then from there, it's could be more about then getting to know, one another. So you can come in there and search by folk. You can get in there and search by the subgenres of folk by an artist. But you can also, if, I know musicians that play rock and then they also want to collaborate with a hip hop artist, completely fine. You can search by individual genres like that.
Yeah, genres being interesting. Yeah, I was wondering about that too. But, sometimes regionally, part of what you want to do is go play outside your region, because that's where nobody knows you, That's where like you're trying to search for people. But and I did notice something in the platform that I was curious about, which is, you said if you see something missing, and we're talking about the venues, and how are you building that venue database? Like, is it
it's
like
overwhelming.
That's always changing, right? And we've talked about this many times in our little world.
My first thing that I did is I went out and I got a comprehensive list of like every independent live music place throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. It's a massive amount of data, and little by little we're going through, we're checking the information, because independent music, what's difficult about it is like there are bars that have their booking details hidden on some page, and then there are professional venues that have all up front. So we're doing a lot of research. I have some very kind and really nice interns coming in and helping out with that process. I spent many hours doing that, but it's going through that venue, getting that first initial batch of venues in there. But once we have enough artists, the next step for us is then to start inviting venues to claim their listing on the platform so that they can kind of manage those things themselves. So it's like we're going to be doing a rollout. Obviously, musicians are first and foremost. Get musicians in there, and then part two, venue owners, house concert hosts, people that want to get in there, and then through that partnerships there, we want to start talking to both sides and seeing, do we then want to then also extend it to booking agents and promoters? We'll probably have that anyway, but do we want them, do musicians want to have promoters and booking agents access to their profile? So there's other steps of this that we have to still consider, but we want to build it out based on the needs of what the musicians want.
I love we're getting into this on the ground floor with you. Like, I love this whole founding member thing, and I like that you seem really open to input from your members, and certainly other people as they're trying to kind of sort through and navigate. But Patty's asking, and I'm pretty sure that this was something you were working on, but she was will you be able to filter by like the number of seats? So if you're looking, how you can sort of like on a price, like maybe like number of seats. It would be nice if there was a way to filter out big large venues, because we already have that. That's you can sort by. Cool. We have different tiers, so like 0 to 50s, 50 to 150. So yeah, you'll be able to sort right out of it. Yeah, cool. I want to do a shout out. I mean, I want to say something like just in general, there's a lot of different things that, we sort of touched on this high level. And again, collaboration. Greg wrote a really cool sort of a Q&A thing that we danced around, but I think we got to most of what this, but we just talk about the power of alliances, and then knowledge sharing, the resources, audiences, and so much of this is what, like, I think Farm really wants to be in addition to this annual conference. But when you go to this conference, you want to feel like that power of the alliances that you're going to create when you go to the conference, not to make this all about Farm, but it is indeed all about Farm. And so we have a wonderful conference 100%. Coming up in the fall, but our incredible conference director, Ellen Stanley, is putting together, another wonderful program in Minneapolis this year, for the next 3 years, actually. And it's going to be great, great, great. Farmfolk.org. I'm assuming most of you are here because of that, but if any of you are here through Greg's network and you weren't familiar with Farm before, I sure hope you go and check that out. I would also like to say that Greg we have mentor sessions 1 month from today, or the second Tuesday in, July? In August, we will be having mentor sessions, and Greg will be one of our mentors for that. So make sure you sign up. There'll only be 8 slots available to sign up for Greg, and I know that you are a consultant, an artist consultant in your world, and are available for consulting services. So hopefully you saw that in the chat. But Greg, do you mind putting your email real quick in the chat before we go? And Patty's saying, before this meeting ends, I want to say I really appreciate this info, the concept. And again, I don't think this whole idea is new to a lot of people, but just I think it's something that it's worth continuing that conversation, that we are all in this together, and supporting each other is how we continue to kind of grow in this world. Little by little, building our audiences, and
one fan at a time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I feel like this conversation is going to continue at the conference. You're going to come, right, Greg? We're going to see.
I'm working on it. Yeah, I've been trying. Yeah, we'll talk.
We'll talk some more. But yeah, in the meantime, in ConcertCollab, it is just ConcertCollab.com.
Yeah, I can drop that in the chat too. Yeah, it's really simple. It's way easier to type in than musicianindycoalition.com. I'll tell you.
Yeah, right. And I hope there's a through link, but all of that was on our website too, so people can link through. If you go to our Virtual Connections page, you'll find all that there. Any last words for us before we sign off there, Greg?
No, thank you so much for having me. This has been great. I really absolutely love everything that obviously Farm is doing, and I've really enjoyed just our conversation. So yeah, looking forward to continuing to get to know everybody in the community.
Nice. Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time today. I appreciate everyone showing up today in the middle of the day on a beautiful hot day. And don't forget, we've got the community peer gathering on Thursday at 2:00. I will be your illustrious host this month, as Charlie is out of town. So you know, you're stuck with me again. But I hope to see some of you there, and the rest of you, farewell. I'm going to actually end the live stream. Farewell, and then we'll